Good evening, everyone. I'll start the meeting by acknowledging the continuing connection of Aboriginal people to country, culture and community, including traditional custodians of this land, the Wadandi and Kaniyang people of the Noongar Nation. We pay respects to elders past and present. And we'll declare the meeting open at 5 p.m. Just a reminder that this meeting is being live streamed and digitally recorded in accordance with Council Policy EMCP2. Members of the public are reminded that no other visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson, while every endeavour has been made to only record those who are actively participating in the meeting. Loud comments or noises may be picked up in the recording. Councillors will suspend clause 8.2 for members to rise of the Meeting Procedures Local Law 2017. Would someone like to move that motion? Councillor Patrick, and seconded. Councillor Davey. All in favour? Thank you. Carried. So in attendance this evening, we have myself, Councillor McCarthy, Councillor Alexis Davey, Councillor Anne Mitchell on Teams. Is she on Teams?
She's not on Teams yet, John.
Okay. Councillor Mitchell may join us on Teams. Councillor Glover, Councillor Peter Gubler, Councillor Patrick, Councillor Bailey and Councillor Lindeman. The staff attending this evening is our Chief Executive Officer, Nick O'Connor, Acting Director Finance and Corporate, Lauren Clifford, Manager Development Services, Michelle Dennis, Acting Manager Financial Services, Stephanie Carafilas, Director of Operations, Ross Marshall, Administration Officer Corporate Services, Samantha Farquhar, and Principal Planner, Cecilia Muller. And I welcome everyone in the public gallery. And also those attending via live stream. We have one apology this evening from Councillor Deanna Shand, and there are no approved leaves of absence. Do councillors have any requests for approved leaves of absence? Councillor Glover.
I'd like to request leave for the April ICM and also the agenda briefing, please.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. We have to move that? Yeah. Would someone like to move that? Councillor Davey, seconded Councillor Gubler. All in favour? Carried. Moving on to item 3 of the agenda, announcements from the presiding member. The upcoming events of notes are as follows. On the 14th of March at the Balingup Hall at 7 p.m, there is a stage production of the Lighthouse Girl Saga, and tickets are available. If you look at the flyers that you'll see around or online, you can follow the link to purchase tickets. On the 22nd of March will be the 25th anniversary of the Donnybrook Library. Celebrations commencing at 11:30am and ending at 1:30 p.m. On the 5th to the 20th of April, the Blackwood River Arts Trail is being held, and for the first time, they'll also be running a film festival with the assistance of the Balingup Arts and Cultural Hub. On the 11th of April, Brookfest is our youth week and runs at the pump track from 3 till 7 p.m, and it's primarily, I think, for young people. It's created by young people for young people. On the 12th of April, Balingup Small Farm Field Day is being held with the theme of Back to Basics. That will be held at the Balingup Oval from 9am to 3:30 p.m. And finally, on the 19th of April, the Donnybrook Apple Festival will be held at multiple locations throughout Donnybrook from 10am to 9 p.m. We also have an update on the Irishtown Bridge repairs. Works are progressing well, and we have been advised by the contractor that there has been a slight delay in the materials supply chain. The revised completion date is 8th of April 2025. there is a significant concrete pour tomorrow. Is that correct, CEO? Would you like to update on any?
Yes, just very briefly, through you, Shire President. I guess it's timely for us to formally acknowledge, the efforts and the speed at which not only our staff, but also the contractors and indeed council has moved on this really important project, providing vital access to the location of Irishtown. Shire President and Councillors, you'll recall that obviously the fire was back early October. There was a special council meeting convened in order to vote out of budget funds. So that was an emergency response to quite a pressing community issue. The tender was developed and issued in a really quick process. We went through the assessment of that tender, the awarding of the contract, and realising that significant procurement activity, including the design work, going to the market and going through the competitive process, was all held around that Christmas period. So quite often that's for the construction industry a time to close down, but our staff work collaboratively with the tenderers to get a great outcome for the for council and in turn the community. So I think the fact there has been a slight supply chain issue and a slight hold up in the general scheme of things, and from my experience over east with some of the construction projects that weren't held up by a week or 2 weeks or a month, it was actually 6 months to 12 months. I think it's a great outcome, and hopefully we look forward to cutting the ribbon on the 8th or the 9th of April. And I guess also probably just to allay some concerns around the current condition of the alternate access on Kelly Road, that I've been informed from the relevant manager of operations that there's actually a maintenance grade scheduled for tomorrow as well. So we continue to thank the road users and indeed the Irishtown residents for their patience, and encourage them to drive to conditions.
Thank you, CEO.
Excuse me, Councillor Mitchell is now online, so we need to continue those.
And I'm informed we now have Councillor Mitchell online, and Councillor Mitchell is required to read a declaration. Would you like to do that, Councillor Mitchell?
Which I can, in pursuit of section 14CA5 of the Local Government Administration Regulations 1996, I, Councillor Anne Mitchell, declare that I am situated in a location where I can maintain confidentiality throughout the duration of the meeting. And I will say the window's open and there's traffic noise, but that's okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mitchell. And moving on to item 4, declarations of interest. And we have one declaration of interest from Councillor Bailey for item 9.1.4, who's declared a financial interest. Do we have any other declarations of interest from councillors? Thank you. Moving on to public question time, item 5.1, responses to previous public questions that were taken on notice. There are a number there. And taking us to 5.2, public question time, are there any questions from the gallery? Thank you. Moving to item 6, presentations. Under 6.1, we have no petitions. Under 6.2, there are no presentations. But under 6.3, deputations, we have several. Can I just note, for the deputations, the purpose here is to draw focus to aspects of information that are already provided in the application and to answer any questions that councillors may have. New information that is not already included in the application can't be considered at this point in time. Now, Mr. Tom Amond, and I understand you're presenting on item 9.1.1 for the extractive industry sand at lot 751, Donnybrook Boyup Road, Beelarup. Thank you, Mr. Amond. I'll just let you know that there is a time limit of 10 minutes, and we'll let you know when you get close.
No worries. Thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, I'm here tonight representing DBCEC. Unfortunately, the owner of the business, Shane, couldn't be here tonight. He's up in Shark Bay for family matters, and we wish him all the best up there. So we actually have 2 items on the agenda tonight. One's a sand extraction on Donnybrook Brook Road and a gravel extraction on Lot 100 Goodwood Road. For those of you that don't know, I just wanted to give you a bit of a background on us and who we are and where we've come from. So we're actually a third generation family owned business, and we've been operating in Donnybrook for that whole time. So DBC EC, as we know it today, was established in 2013 when the late Ross Smith and Shane decided to combine their knowledge and expertise and started DBC EC. Ever since then, like most businesses in the construction industry, we've gone from strength to strength over the last few years. We service all aspects of the civil industry, so we do things from driveways, shed pads, dams, large-scale residential subdivisions all over the southwest, and we pride ourselves on underground services, and we're known throughout the southwest for having expertise in that. We were recently awarded a major contract on the Bunbury Outer Ring Road to install 11 kilometres of stormwater drainage, and that sort of just highlighted our recognition within the southwest. We currently employ 55 people. Of those 55, 34 are locals. Of those 34, 14 are aged under 30, and we've got 4 apprentices, which are all local. So we pride ourselves on employing locals, training young people, and teaching them our trade. We also pride ourselves on supporting local businesses, community groups, and as I said before, we have strong ties to Donnybrook, and our vision is to remain in Donnybrook. We currently operate 2 pits within the Shire, so we've got a sand pit which has been in operation for 27 years now, and a gravel pit which has been there for 7 years now. So both these pits are coming to the end of their life. We've rehabbed the early stages or the first couple of cells of those pits, and the majority of the sand and gravel from these pits is brought by local residents, builders, contractors, and government departments. Both these resources over the last couple of years have come really high in demand, and our goal and desire is to continue to provide these materials to our local community. The sand pit, the proposed sand pit, so the land which the sand pit is proposed to be on has actually been bought by the Smith family. They say enormous potential in the land, not only for the sand, but also for the farming abilities for generations to come. And I guess that's why they're willing to invest in this land. We've already planted over 200 native trees for screening on the highway. We've set up a fully automatic solar irrigation system for those trees, and hopefully soon we'll be able to construct a road for suitable access into this land. So this is not a short-term investment for the Smith family. This is something they want to keep well post sand extraction and into the future. And finally, we're very, very satisfied and happy with the process that both these applications have been through. We're very comfortable with the conditions that are proposed on these applications, and we thank the Shire officers for all their hard work, all their hard questions. They've been outstanding, and we look forward to your support on these applications as well. So I'll open the floor up.
Thank you, Mr. Ormond. Do councillors have any questions? Through the chair. Councillor Davey?
Hi, thanks for that. That was really good. I've been a customer of yours in the past, so I appreciate the service you offer to the town. I just had a question with regards to dieback. Is it routine for you guys to go in and check for the presence of dieback before doing any disturbance and before shifting any sand out of the area?
Thank you, Councillor Davey.
So through the chair, yes, prior to clearing, definitely, 100%. And then we implement measures to manage dieback throughout the extraction process, the carting process, all that sort of stuff. Yep.
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, through the chair, thank you. What are the likelihoods of working, not so much in the sand pit, but with the gravel and the crushing? Do you intend to do that on the Saturdays? I see you've licensed, or going for a licence from 7 to 1. How important is that Saturday to you?
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Through the chair. Saturday would just be for carting, so you know, deliveries, that sort of stuff. So there'd be no crushing, screening, any of that sort of stuff on Saturday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Davey.
Sorry, I had one on water as well. So I can see that there's already a condition proposed around monitoring the depths of water before digging in the gravel pit. With the sand area, would you normally check for the depth to water before digging in that area as well? If you're extracting in spring, I guess, before it really dries out.
Thank you, Councillor Davey.
Through the chair. So we have, at the sandpit, we've got ground monitoring bores installed already, and we monitor them for any readings monthly. So that's just part of our process, and yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you, councillors, and thank you, Mr. Amon.
Thank you.
And Ms. Burke, would you like to come and present you're from the Baling Up Fruit Winery, and you're presenting regarding item 9.1.4, development application P24070 for the Baling Up Fruit Winery cellar door at lot 62, Unit 1, 33 Bridgetown Road in Baling Up. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors and members of the Donnybrook Baling Up Shire. So yes, I'm the owner-operator, along with my husband, of the Baling Up Fruit Winery, and we have an application before you this evening for that changeover of location. So it is for the cellar door to move from its existing location in the packing shed at the front unit there, across the road to Unit 133 Bridgetown Road, directly opposite each other. The production of our winery is in the back part of the packing shed there. That won't change, so that will remain. Before addressing the application itself, I just want to provide a little bit of insight into our business and where we're taking it.
Excuse me, Ms. Burke. I have neglected to ask Councillor Bailey to leave the room because he hasn't. Sorry, Councillor Bailey. Yep. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's fine. Yes, I just wanted to provide a little insight into our business and where we're taking it with this move. So the Baling Up Fruit Winery was originally located in Birdwood Park, out the back of the old Baling Up pub. There was the original owners had on-site orchard there and production. That was established in 1996, so it's been going quite a while. It's quite an iconic business in Baling Up. They moved all their production and cellar door to the packing shed in 2012. The original owners then sold the business in 2015, and it underwent a name change to the Baling Up Fruit Winery. We bought the business in 2022, and we consider ourselves extremely lucky to be able to work and shape the future of this amazing little winery. We've introduced a number of different varieties since we've been working there, but we've also kept the tried and true favourites of our customers, like the plum port. Now, I did expect my husband to be here and be my assistant, because we would love you to try our product. We're incredibly proud of what we do and what we make. So, but he's been held up at work, so I will get to pour you a sample and a tasting of that plum port. It is absolutely delicious. We pride ourselves in utilising the amazing local fruits from Baling Up and surrounds. The plum that you're going to taste tonight is fermented from Queen Garnet plums grown at East Wind Orchard in Baling Up. Our cherries are from Rosa Valley in Malalia and Russo's in Donnybrook. Our rhubarb and lime are both sourced from Tapulo Springs on Grimwade Road in Balingup. Our apricots, peaches, pears are from Delasales Orchard in Malalia. Apples from Donnybrook and Newlands. And we have just secured, we've just had talks with Anna and Brian Newies in Curragh to use their strawberries next season. So we're quite excited about that, as they are the best strawberries in the southwest. As we move to a large cellar door, what we want to do is be offering other local produce that complements our wines. These would be in the form of packaged local produce. So we already have in place arrangements with Cambro Cheese, the Chocolate Vault here in Donnybrook, and also Southern Forests Chocolate in Pemberton. We anticipate a number of other local products as well. So many of our tourists arrive in town on the Friday between 3 and 4, and they stop in town before they go and book into their accommodation. We would like to offer them wine tasting, but also the opportunity to then take a basket of our local products, go back to their accommodation, book in and enjoy those products and have a leisurely, relaxing night on their first occasion in Balingup. As we know, Balingup does not have currently after-hours facilities for meals, etc. So this is a lovely way to sort of let them relax into the town before the next day going and exploring the wonderful things we have in our region. Additionally, we would like to work collaboratively with the accommodation providers and the Tourist Association, whereby during any of the days that we're open, we would offer baskets of local produce, including our wine, along with maps and information of the local tourist spots that are best placed for enjoying a basket of those local goodies. So things like Golden Valley Tree Park, Wrights Bridge, the riverbank up beyond the Avenue of Honour, Racecourse Reserve, those types of things. So yeah, that's what we would like to be able to offer and have the space to do that. So this is essentially in the cellar door area that we've been placed in at the moment. This is what we've been hearing from our visitors. This is what they want, so this is what we'd like to give to them. So I'd just like to say, in relation to the application and the recommendations, thank you to the Shire and planning for the work that went into the report and the support that we've had during this process. Just a couple of notes on there. First is the existing septic system. We note that the recommendation states the existing on-site effluent system be upgraded to the satisfaction of the Shire as a recommendation. We also note, though, in the comments of the officer's report that acknowledges the site inspection of a licensed plumber that we engaged on January the 23rd, 2025, and states, based on this assessment, the information provided is considered sufficient and to allow the proposal to proceed with the existing on-site effluent disposal system. So with us acknowledging the comments from the Environmental Health Officer as well, that if there were future changes in use, then obviously an additional planning application would be required and the review of the septic system against those changes. The other issue I'd just like to mention is involving the parking. So the current vacant area in between our unit and the old bakery, the Mushroom Cafe. So this is privately owned and forms the third part of our strata. So Unit 1, Unit 2, Unit 3 essentially is that vacant area there. So this area previously has had an issue with large delivery trucks coming in servicing the cafe, and there being some divots and potholes. So So this was rectified, this was fixed in 2024, and the photographs that were submitted show that it's compacted well, and there's no further issue that we can see with it. In regard to the usage for unloading for the winery, that would be done, as pointed out in the report, on a fortnightly basis. Topping up the cellar door basically with stock would be about 3 to 4 cases of wine, and done in a dual cab ute, so no heavy vehicle there. The recommendation for 3 designated car parks for the cellar door use to the right of the carriageway. We have discussed and come to an arrangement with the owner of that vacant land, and he has agreed to give 3 car parks, and we will designate them and put signage there, making it clear. The rest of the area would remain as private property. I do have a letter from the owner of the car park stating that he's happy to do that as well. I think really just to say that the change in location of our cellar door will greatly assist our business to flourish. Its current location proves to have a lot of challenges in relation to identity, being standalone to the cafe and other businesses there, and also meeting the requirements of our licence, whereby we only have a certain number of people in our area, licensed area, and also those being over 18. So with the thoroughfare that it currently has now, it provides a real challenge to ensure that that's met. I won't take up any more time. I think I'm just about done. But other than to extend an invitation to each of you here tonight to call in and come and taste more varieties and come and see what we actually produce and what we're so proud to put on offer for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much. If you'd just like to wait a moment. And I love the offer of having a tasting tonight, but I can lay odds that we won't be allowed to. Is that right? We might be limited to coming down and having a tasting. All right. Thank you very much for that. But if you can just wait while we ask some questions. Do councillors have any questions? No questions. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll just bring Councillor Bailey back into the room. Thank you, Councillor Bailey. We're moving on now to item 6.4, delegates' reports, of which we have none, and then looking at our adoptions by exception and our list of en bloc items that we will pass in one go. Those items are 7.1, 7.2, 7.3, 7.4, 8.1, 8.2, 9.1.3, 9.1.6, 9.1.7, 9.2.1 and 9.2.3. 9.3.1 was originally considered en bloc, but has been pulled and will be looked at individually. Would councillors like to move to adopt the following items en bloc, or those items en bloc, and resolve in accordance with each of the executive recommendations? Councillor Patrick, seconded by Councillor Lindeman. All in favour? Carried. That will now take us to item 9, reports of officers. And item 9.1, Director of Operations. Moving into item 9.1.1, the development application P24056, Extractive Industry Sand, Lot 751, Donnybrook Boyup Brook Road in Beelarup. Councillor Davey?
May I move with the proposed amendment?
I do think we need to bring the motion to the floor first. Yeah, we need a mover and seconder. Who would like to move this motion? Councillor Patrick, seconded Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Patrick.
Yeah, look, I don't have much to say to it. I think the information that's been provided is very thorough. I think the current practices and experience of the applicant speak for themselves to some degree. However, I'm aware of a proposed amendment, and you know, in relation to that, sort of want to pass that over so that we can address that amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Lindeman?
Yeah, not a lot. Just really to say that I viewed the proposed site and walked around, you know, and took in different aspects. Visually from the roadside, it's going to have little impact with the trees that they were talking of that they have planted. The property is definitely sandy. There's not much growing there, and the Pony Club building is charming but dilapidated. The area has been mined by the looks of it for sand previously. There's only a small amount of low-growing vegetation, although I did see a couple of the Christmas trees. The land would not be sustainable, I don't think, during the summer months for any stock whatsoever. There's nothing on it. On balance, sand is required for numerous purposes, including concrete, and of course in the housing industry. These are deemed essential, so we have in the past thought housing affordability a priority. Sand as a resource has increased in price, some state doubling in price, with every future year deemed to increase based on scarcity. Transporting this resource in from other areas will exacerbate this. The land is not of high quality agricultural purpose. It has already been cleared and no remnant bush remains other than the Christmas trees I talked about. There has been some irrigated native plants, as I mentioned, for screening. Besides that, they do have the tubing for the water table measurements, but besides that, it doesn't look particularly remarkable. So I would support the application with all conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Davey?
Yeah, I'd like to foreshadow 2 amendments if I can.
You can make the amendments. Yep.
Yeah, I
You
can
can
move
move
those. So one being an amendment to the condition regarding groundwater and one being an amendment to a condition regarding dieback.
Would you like me to read that, or have you got it there to read?
I'd like to read them if I can,
Yes,
because
thank
there
you.
has been some changes. So the condition regarding water is condition 29. So prior to the commencement of spring-summer sand extraction, the applicant shall monitor depths of groundwater during the period from August to October each year. The monitoring shall be carried out to ensure that there is adequate separation between the groundwater level and the pit floor in accordance with the approved pit floor contour plan.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. We'll just get that up.
Shall I read through the second condition?
Yes, please, while that's
So
coming
the
up.
second condition was item 7. Prior to the commencement of any clearing or site disturbance activities, the applicant must confirm the presence or absence of dieback and prepare a dieback management plan to the satisfaction of the Shire. Once approved, the dieback management plan shall become a part of this approval and must be adhered to at all times for the duration of the approval.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. We'll just take a moment. Would you like to confirm that that condition is as you've said?
Yep.
Thank you. Would someone like to second the amendments? Councillor Bailey? Would anyone like to speak to the amendment?
I would
Sorry,
like to speak.
Councillor Davey, would you like to speak to your amendments?
Yeah, great, thank you. Noting that the proponent has just given information, the deputation, that both of these activities are already undertaken, I don't see this as being a significant barrier to, economic viability of the project or additional duress or over-regulation on the proponent. So considering the balance between access to affordable local natural resources like sand and gravel, management of risks and impacts, and over-regulation, the key issues that I thought should be considered wasn't the productivity of ag land in this instance, but protection of biodiversity. So there are nearby conservation areas, and I believe to maintain that biodiversity, we need to be paying attention to dieback and paying attention to water and the impacts of this project on those two things. I noted that 9.1.2, because it's in a drinking water catchment, has been afforded the additional requirement of monitoring groundwater already. Arguably, the surface water and overland flows and shallow perched aquifers within the Preston River catchment are just as crucial for maintaining downgradient biodiversity and agricultural productivity, so beyond the boundaries of the site. 9.1.1 is quite close to a tributary to the proclaimed Preston River. It does have shallow groundwater, which would support the biodiversity of adjacent conservation areas. I suggested inclusion of a condition to maintain adequate separation from groundwater. So just bores you can dip for depth to water. So simple, they already have them. The proposed operations are spring and summer, so this will help clarify the minimum depth to water, noting that it ranged anywhere from 0.9 metres to 12 metres, depending on which report you looked at and which borehole you looked at. So that's quite a range. There were areas in spring that were 4 metres to water or dry for the depth of the borehole, so there are areas that they could start on in spring. This is not going to stop them from being able to operate. So yeah, it shouldn't be an impediment to operating the site. It's not hard to monitor groundwater and sand, and the Structair report gives enough areas that they could get started in, and then you could re-dip later in the season if you wanted to go back to those areas that were wet. With dieback, it just makes sense to clarify if there's dieback there before establishing a dieback management plan and getting started. So proponent said they already do it, but what was in the condition previously didn't actually require the identification of dieback before disturbance. So this is just clarifying things that are already going to be done, that are good practice, and then the proponent can be held to them.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, through the chair, just something for possible change there. This site is very clear because it's a long way from anything else, but I think it's probably worth including. The operating hours of the extractive works are restricted to between 7 to 6, Monday to Friday. No operations are permitted on Saturday, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed in writing by the Shire. Operations on Saturday will be limited.
Could I just ask, is that the same?
Operations on a Saturday will be limited to carting only between 7 and 1.
Councillor Bailey, I think because this is an amendment, we need to get this amendment up first before we can take another one. I'm not sure of the fact that you seconded that amendment compromises that though. CEO, was that fine? No. Okay, all right. Well, we'll just take it that you've spoken to this and then we'll need someone else to speak to this amendment first, for everyone to have a chance to speak to this amendment, and then we can put forward another amendment. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the amended motion?
I just want to ask a question, really. Not being an expert in this, I feel like I'm sure Councillor Davey is across all of this, but I just don't know where I grabbed the other bit of information from to know that that's correct and not too difficult for someone to implement. I don't know where I go for that information. Perhaps someone could help.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone object to having Director of Operations provide information on the recommendation, on the amendment? Councillor Davey?
I did ask the questions directly of the proponent during the deputation and they were answered, so...
I'll just take a moment. Director of Operations, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Madam President. I tend to agree. I think the question was asked and answered quite well. In my humble opinion, what you've proposed and what you've suggested in your, presentation is in alignment with what I understand to be the practices that the contractor will carry out anyway. So I don't see any huge encumbrance from what's been put forward, President.
Thank you, Director of Operations. Councillor Lindeman, does that make you feel more comfortable?
Thank you. As you're probably aware, I don't like amendments on the fly.
Did you want to say any more about this amendment? Okay. Would anyone like to speak for or against the amendment? All right. Right of reply?
Yeah, I'd just like to note that the amendment was proposed last Wednesday evening, so this is not an amendment on the fly.
Point taken. Right, all in favour of the amended motion? That's carried. That now becomes a substantive motion, and we'll pick that up where we left it off. And we had Councillor Patrick moving that, Councillor Lindeman seconding it. Would anyone else like to speak to the amended motion, which is now our substantive motion?
Through the chair, sorry about the
Councillor
jumping the
Bailey.
gun on it. One that's more pertinent to the gravel, which I've already read out. Have you got the wording for that motion, Law?
So, Councillor Bailey, I understand you're moving your amendment now.
Correct. You got it there, or you just want me to read it out? Okay.
Would you like to read that through, Councillor Bailey?
Thank you, through the chair. This will be more pertinent to gravel, and that location out there for the sand is going to be great. But I think it appears that staff are building a program or a basis now for mining that's starting to look pretty good. And I think there's just a few little things if we can tweak them there. And taking the mineral out of the ground, or what have we got to take out of the ground, is a great idea before we do something with it. So the amendment I'd like to have a chat about was operating hours of the extractive works are restricted between 7 o'clock to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. No operations are permitted on Saturdays, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed in writing by the Shire. Operations on Saturday to be limited to carry carting only between 7 and 1.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Would you like someone to second that amendment? Councillor Glover? Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to the amendment?
What I believe is happening here in regard to this amendment is just making it more in line with all the other applications that we've seen so far. Am I correct with that? That's what I think is happening anyway, and I think that it's a good idea to, if we're going to do it for one, we do it for all, and it's just this blanket approach that happens, and I agree with that.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Would anyone else like to speak to that amendment, for or against? Councillor Patrick?
Yeah, thank you. So I think just the wording of it to start with, so it's saying not permitted on a Saturday or a Sunday unless otherwise agreed. Operations on a Saturday to be limited to carting. So I think the wording of that's just, because we're saying it's not allowed, I know it's subject to Shire approval, but then operations on a Saturday to be limited. that's one bit just around the wording of that. But from my perspective, I appreciate what Councillor Glover said and maybe the intent into sort of from a standardised, but I personally believe, we need to look at each application on its own merit insofar as its location, risk and all those sorts of things. I cycle on that road pretty early on a Saturday morning and there is no other traffic around, there's nobody else generally around. So I'm not sure why that restriction needs to be put in place. The applicant's already stated that the only thing that will happen on a Saturday is going to be karting. There's very, very limited residential area around there, people around. I just don't feel that it's a necessary restriction given the location of the proposed operation.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the amendment?
I personally had a question.
Councillor Lindeman?
Thank you, through the chair. Did I miss this amendment coming through earlier? Because, again, I go back to the fly, being on the fly. Did I miss this amendment earlier?
No.
Okay. Well, then I'm going to vote against this because I don't think it's about standardising operating hours. Every business is different. Every road is different. Some are further away from built-up areas and some aren't. So I think we've had a good look at this and I will entrust the executives to have made some good decisions in consultation about these operating hours. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone else like to speak for or against? Councillor Davey?
I don't think this one would be a significant impediment to the operators, apart from I do think the word Saturday needs to be struck through on the second sentence for it to be an operable condition.
I'll just take a moment. We'll just seek some clarification.
Yeah,
from
sorry,
the
just through
CEO.
you, Chair, just want to seek clarification because maybe building on Councillor Patrick's point there, at the moment, that sort of the way that I'm reading it, it's that the second sentence that starts with no operations are permitted on Saturday, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed in writing by the Shire. But then we've got operations on a Saturday to be limited to karting only between 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Is the intention of the mover and the seconder for it to be no crushing and extraction operations, but karting is allowed but restricted? Or indeed, the intention is that no operations are permitted unless agreed otherwise, and in the event that they are agreed, that it be karting only on a Saturday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. Just clarification through you, Shire President.
Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Bailey? would you like
Through
to
the chair,
provide
as I say, it doesn't make much difference with this one because it's sand, but it's more that crushing of gravel that's going to make the noise.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Glover, have you got a question or are you looking to debate because you've had your turn?
My question, it's not a question, but I heard the CEO say it was the interpretation of the mover and the seconder, and so that's where I was seeking clarification what my intention was.
Sorry, what was your is that a question or?
No, I'm giving reason for why I'm speaking is that because the CEO asked for clarity from the mover and the seconder around the intention of this amendment.
Thank you.
Should I provide my intention though?
No. Please, Councillor Glover. I'm very sorry.
I'm just making clarification about, I don't know exactly what it was about, but my understanding is exactly how Councillor Bailey just worded it, and perhaps that part about no operations permitted on Saturday, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed in writing by the Shire on this particular occasion could be deleted, and then it could be just operations on a Saturday to be limited to karting between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. because the second sentence almost repeats,
Can I just
duplicates that.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Just a moment, please, councillors. Councillors, I do think we need to deal with this amendment first before we start changing them. So we'll continue with this amendment, and if it falls down, we can propose another. Would anyone else like to speak to this amendment as it stands? We'll put that to vote. Those in favour? And those against? Thank you. So we go back to the substantive motion. Can we please just remove that amendment that hasn't stood? Or leave that, perhaps leave that there, please, and then we'll edit that. Now, councillors, would you like to move an amendment?
Well, now that we've come to this part, yes, I'd like to move an amendment, which is, if I'd like to move an amendment, please.
We're going back to where we are, to the substantive motion. Yes, you can. Okay, and what is your amendment?
The amendment would be operating hours of the extractive works are restricted between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday to Friday, and operations on Saturdays to be limited to carting only between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. And would someone like to second that? Councillor Bailey? Councillor Glover, would you like to speak to your motion?
Sure.
Your amended motion?
Thank you. Through the chair, the proponent has already spoken about the operating hours being carting only on Saturday between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m. There'll be no need for other operations to be happening on that time anyway, given that it is only sand. But it just does sort of streamline the application to what it was that they proposed to be doing.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak for or against this motion, this amended motion?
I'm against it because we're talking about,
Councillor
through the Chair,
Lindemann.
I'm against this motion because we're talking about sand, and I think there's been some confusion about the two activities, and on this case, it's stated already, and again, I feel like I'm less prepared than I'd like. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lindemann. Councillor Davey?
This one's quiet on public holidays, and a Monday can be a public holiday. So then I feel like it's inconsistent with other conditions. So that's why I'm...
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Would anyone else like to speak to the amended motion? We'll put that to vote. All those in favour? And all those against? 3, 4. Against? 4. Can you confirm, please?
Can we just confirm who was for and who was against?
Councillors, can we just redo that? For those who are for the motion, for the amended motion, there is 4, and those who are against the motion. There is 4. Thank you, councillors. My casting vote is against the motion. So we go back to, that hasn't been carried, and we go back to the substantive motion. We'll just allow minutes to catch up. Through the chair.
My apologies. I was against, not for. So just to clarify, the number's not adding up.
Thank you, Councillor Davey.
Comfortable that was their vote and casting that.
If councillors can just read that minute, can you please confirm that that's your vote? Thank you, councillors. This brings us back to the substantive motion as amended by Councillor Davey. Would anyone like to speak for or against that motion? Right, we'll put that to vote. Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Going back to Councillor Patrick, would you like to write a reply?
Thank you. Look, yeah, I think ultimately we're looking at an industry, you know, provided by a local company, employing local people, supplying local product to local companies and local people. I'm very, very comfortable with the informed recommendations from Councillor Davey, and as the proponent had advised during their presentation, that they're things they can easily comply with, as well as the hours for the Saturday. They have said that they're planning on just trucking on the Saturday, if at all, anyway. So all in all, I think, look, it's a good use of a land that there's probably not a lot of other use for, and I would encourage the other councillors to support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. We'll now put that to vote. Councillors in favour? It's carried. Moving on to item 9.1.2, development application P24066, extractive industry gravel at lot 100 Goodwood Road, Upper Capel. Would councillors like to move the motion? Councillor Davey?
Sorry, can I move and foreshadow amendment?
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Would someone like to second the motion? Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Davey, would you like to speak and put your amendment forward?
Yeah, could we please copy paste the prior amendment, but it will be condition 27 and condition 7 rather than condition 29 and condition 7.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Excellent. Would you like to read those through, Councillor Davey, and then speak to the...
Condition 7, prior to the commencement of any clearing or site disturbance. So this one, can we strike through clearing, please? So prior to the commencement of site disturbance activities, the applicant must confirm the presence or absence of dieback in adjacent vegetation. It's not in there, so if we could just make it to the one, yeah. Prior to the commencement of any site disturbance activities, the applicant must confirm the presence or absence of dieback in adjacent vegetation and prepare a dieback management plan to the satisfaction of the Shire. Once approved, the dieback management plan shall become part of this approval and must be adhered to at all times for the duration of the approval. Item 27. That should read item 27, I believe. Prior to the commencement of gravel extraction, the applicant shall So this condition is...
Sorry, Councillor Davey, can you go back to the first so that they can just catch up with you a bit there?
Yep, that's fine.
So we're into adjacent vegetation.
Yep.
That's,
Item.
you're right there? Yep. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Davey.
Item 27. So at the moment, the condition is focused on cell 1 and a 2 metre separation. So the amended condition includes cell 2 and adequate separation. So that is the change. That is the amendment from being focused on cell 1 to being both.
Thank
so
you,
I can read it in
Councillor
full
Davey.
if you like.
No, that's great. So you can speak to your motion now, your amended motion.
So the amendments are as written up on the screen. So this extraction area, there's no clearing that I understand, but it's adjacent to the Boyanup forest. So again, it's that risk to biodiversity. So there's already a condition on making sure that one of the cells is monitored because it's within the drinking water catchment area. The other cell, I believe, should also be monitored using existing site piezometers, just to make sure that the pit floor is not intercepting the groundwater. So it's not as strict as maintaining the 2 metre separation, it's just adequate separation, because lower risk with the area being slightly outside the the drinking water area. So that was the justification for those amendments, consistent with the other application.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Councillor Lindeman.
So I'm speaking for this motion with the amendments. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, I did take the opportunity again to go and visit this site along with another councillor and a staff member. So, you know, took in different aspects around the property. Visually from the roadside, it will have some impact, but only a small section. The property is definitely rocky, but has agricultural use for stock. And next door once did have an orchard, so the soil mustn't be too bad. There are dams on the property, but it has been cleared of vegetation, much like all farmland. It definitely could be returned to agricultural use once it's rehabilitated. Otherwise, it's reasonably unremarkable. And I support the application with all conditions and amended conditions.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone else like to speak to the amended motion? We'll put the amendment to vote. Oh, sorry, right of reply. I do beg your pardon. You waive right of reply? Yeah. Okay. We'll put that to vote. All those in favour? And those against? No, sorry, it's carried. That now becomes our substantive motion, and Councillor Davey has spoken, Councillor Lindeman has spoken. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the now substantive motion? Councillor Bailey.
I'd like to move an amendment on clause 21, which is the opening hours, which is the amendment we've already given, which is operating hours for the extraction works are restricted between 7 to 6 Monday to Friday. No operations are permitted Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed to in writing by the Shire. Operations on Saturday to be limited to carting only between 7 and 1. So
Thank you, Councillor Bailey.
Excludes crushing.
Can you just check that for us now, Councillor Bailey? I'll read it out. Operating hours of the extracting works are restricted to between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m, Monday to Friday. No operations are permitted on Saturday, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed in writing by the Shire. operations on a Saturday to be limited to karting only between 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Thank you. Would councillors, would you like to speak to, sorry?
I guess my question with the previous item, just around the clarity of the amendment, Councillor Bailey. So I guess the wording there around operating hours of the extractive works are restricted to between 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday to Friday. No operations are permitted on Saturday, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed in writing by the Shire. And is it indeed that the operations on a Saturday, if they are agreed by the Shire, to be limited to karting only between 7 a.m. and 1 p.m? Is that the intention? Because I don't...
Is that your intention?
Yes, it is.
Do you think, John, that is covered by the first sentence? So that no operations are permitted on Saturday, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed?
Well, this being gravel, the operations could be carting out was fine, but if they're going to be crushing on a Saturday, then we're creating a lot of noise. And we're now getting closer and more of these in residential or close to residential properties. So the idea is, by all means, take the gravel out on a Saturday, but there be no crushing on a Saturday.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Is everything all right down there?
I guess just probably through you, just around clarity, and if this does need to be enforced down the track, it's just clarity is really important. So I don't normally like to step in, but if indeed approved, what about, if works are approved? So we've got the second sentence there saying no operations are permitted on Saturday, Sunday or public holidays unless otherwise agreed in writing by the Shire. So should it be wording such as, in the event that operations are agreed, operations on Saturday to be limited to karting only between 7 a.m. to 1 p.m? That's the intention.
That is yes.
We'll edit that, shall we, John? Would you like that edited?
Yeah, by all means. Thank you.
And while that's happening, Councillor Davey.
Yeah, I wanted to second it with the clarification that the word Saturday be struck through so it was an operable condition. Just keep it simple.
Can you say that again with...
I was going to second it with a request that the word Saturday be struck from the second sentence to make it very simple and clear and save further discussion.
Would you like that edited in your amendment?
If you feel that makes it clearer, by all means, please do.
Can you give the wording again to Councillor Bailey? It's up there, is it?
It's up there, I believe, yep.
Okay.
No operation.
Right. And did you want to speak to your amendment, Councillor Bailey?
Yeah, through the chair. Councillors, we're going to be getting more and more of these applications, and it's great to see the mineral and everything else taken out and used, especially by locals. And I think to have something clear about noise on a Saturday and Sunday, loading trucks will be okay, but crushing gravel is probably not acceptable to most people.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Davey?
Nothing further to add.
Would anyone else like to speak to the amended motion? Councillor Glover?
As in the deputation, the applicants had already clarified that it is their intention to only cart gravel on the Saturday between those operating hours, and it was not their intention to crush or do extraction at that time. So I feel that it isn't taking anyone out of their spot. It's not making anything more difficult for anything. It's just making clarity around that. So I'm speaking for it.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Councillor Patrick?
Yeah, look, I'll speak against it. I believe the deputation was in relation to the sand. The other item number specifically was what the deputation was related to. However, again, I do spend quite a lot of time cycling on Goodwood Road early in the mornings. Outside of a vehicle, I understand the noise concerns. However, given that it was put out for public consultations and all neighbours, there's only one neighbour, I believe, within 650 metres, There was no concerns or complaints received from neighbours indicating that it was an issue. I don't know that there's any indication to say that we're going to be receiving significantly more of these, as previously indicated. We may not, but each one will be taken on its own merit. Given the location, again, it's out of town. I don't necessarily see this restriction needs to be placed on there. From a financial viability point of view, it'll probably be less viable for an operator to be paying overtime for those operations anyway. But yeah, I'm not sure of the actual overall benefit of the particular restriction. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Lindeman.
Just another question. It was mentioned just then that the nearest neighbour was 650 metres, I think. But now I feel like I'm not prepared and refreshed with the information because it's put upon me. So I just want to make sure that all parties are going to be comfortable with that. I missed one of the meetings that we had in which some limitations were put on one of the gravel pits. So is this something that has been done previously on another operation similar to this?
Director of Operations, I believe that's the case, isn't it?
Thank you, Madam President. If I may, it's certainly this extra detail ring fences a bit more clarity, understanding it, that was the intent anyway, if that makes sense. So for a bit more brevity, it certainly helps from a compliance point of view.
And I think the question was, have we put a similar condition into previous gravel?
Not to that
or
level
sand?
of brevity, no, President, but that certainly was the intention.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Councillor Lindeman?
Yes, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak to this motion? Okay, we're going to put to vote the... sorry, I'll give you right of reply. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, through the chair. Councillors, the licence is 10 years and it can be extended out for another 10 years, so we're already looking at 2035 and possibly longer. Our farming property in the whole area is, at some stage, is going to be gobbled up into lifestyle blocks, and that's the way we're moving. And I think this is just a safeguard for people that are moving into the area, that this can't keep on making noise, especially on a Saturday or when people are trying to have a rest. So that's the intent, is just to make it very clear.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Just a reminder to councillors too, we can't introduce new information in a right of reply. That would be fine. We'll put this one to vote, the amended motion. Those in favour? Thank you, councillors. Those against? Oh, sorry, I've got Anne. Sorry, Anne, I missed you. And Councillor Patrick. Thank you, councillors. This now becomes our substantive motion, which was moved by Councillor Davey and seconded by Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone else like to speak to the substantive motion? Right of reply, Councillor Davey.
Yeah, overall supportive of the project proceeding. Again, my amendments were provided earlier, so apologies for the last minute work on these. I have nothing further to add. I hope we can move on to the next item now.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. We'll put that to vote. All those in favour? And all those, everybody? All those against? Carried. Moving on to item 9.1.4, development application P24070, Bailing Up Fruit Winery Cellar Door, Lot 62, Unit 1, 33 Bridgetown Road in Bailing Up. And Councillor Davey. is leaving the room. Sorry, Councillor Bailey is leaving the room. Okay, councillors, would anyone like to move this motion? Councillor Patrick? And seconded, Councillor Glover. Councillor Patrick?
Thank you. Look, really supportive of this application. I take on board entirely everything that was said during the deputation, particularly around the physical environment of the packing shed, particularly on our, the Friday night market nights. You've got children as well as a lot more adults within that area, which could impact the applicant's liquor licence outside of their control, essentially. I don't really see any downside or any risk in relation to this application, and looking forward to some more warm mulled wine, hopefully, when winter comes. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Councillor Glover?
Yes, I'm also in support of this application as well. I think it would be a great move to bring, things together a little bit closer and to offer a great service to the people within Balingup and also the people who are visiting Balingup. So I'm supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Would anyone like, any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion? Thank you, councillors. Right reply, Councillor Patrick? No? Councillors, will put that to vote. All those in favour? Carried. And Councillor Bailey, who's definitely Councillor Bailey, has re-entered the room. Moving on to item 9.1.5, request for consent to mine exploration activities on Reserve 2052 and Reserve 22860. Would councillors like to move the motion? Councillor Lindeman, and seconded. Councillor Davey. Councillor Lindeman, would you like to speak to the motion?
Sure. I do not support exploration or mining of Reserve 2052 Sandhills Road and 22860 Thompson Road, Donnybrook, for the reasons contained within the executive recommendation. Furthermore, there are tributaries and runoff close by to the proposed mining area, feeding into dams carried from the sloping topography that head down into the lower lying farmland. Some of these dams rely solely on above ground precipitation runoff, while some others have a natural spring or bore utilised during the summer. All are subject to any changes disturbing vegetation above the ground and mining utilising underground catchment. The flora and fauna are still currently thriving in this delightful section of the native bush ecosystem that incorporates a walk trail close to town. This is against all odds as they continue to survive an ever-drying climate, hotter than ever than average summers, more frequent bushfires and dieback caused by plant pathogen. There are over 60 species of the plant pathogen detected in Western Australia, with almost 40 of them detected in native ecosystems and others in agriculture and horticulture. Pathogens such as dieback are on the increase. With all these threats, do we need to add another mine in the area? I've jogged through many sections of this bush in the past 15 years. I have seen it flush with every orchid between the months of August and October. Within these months, some flowers may only last days. No ecological survey will capture every plant, flower or animal unless you are on the ground daily over a full year, and it happened to be the year in which the season was just right and all plants flowered. This demonstrates the very delicate and precarious nature of this ecosystem. The orchids that I cited were slipper, butter, purple enamel, donkey, spider, fairy, cowslip and the frog greenhood. Along with these, there are numerous other flowering plant species I can't name, but I simply enjoy seeing them. One thing proliferates during the summer months in this area, and that's a variety of spiders. They spin their webs every evening, so you'll be captured by them in the morning. I notice their unique and colourful appearance, one being the jewel or Christmas spider, rarely seen in any home garden and only in the bush. Our natural environment is already facing threats from land clearing, weed invasion, introduced predators, foreign pathogens, groundwater depletion, climate change and other human impacts. Orchids, much like frogs, are important indicators of ecosystem and climate health. West Australia's orchids are spectacular and represent important flagship species that encourage and inspire people to protect the habitats in which they grow. Along with these rare plants, there is an extensive show of red and green, or mangles, kangaroo paw. The red and green kangaroo paw was proclaimed as the state's floral emblem in November 1960. It was incorporated into the coat of arms of Western Australia on 17th of March 1969. West Australia's floral emblem grows naturally only in Western Australia, and I have seen many people out on this trail visiting these reserves, enjoying the spectacular display of large outcrops of these species indicative to the area. Our southwest makes up one of the biodiversity hotspots in Australia and one of 34 spots in the world. WA has one of the highest rates of species discovery in the world, and more are being discovered all the time. Defined as geographical region that has at least 1,500 vascular plant species and has lost at least 70% of its original supporting habitat. Most community opposition to mining is focused on the long-term impacts of mining activity on the local environment. Expectations are evolving rapidly as communities become less inclined to provide mining companies with a social licence to operate. It is no longer sufficient for the resource sector to point to the economic benefits of a project to win over a community. Again, the southwest of WA is an internationally recognised biodiversity hotspot. Around the world, 36 areas qualify. Their intact habitats represent just 2.5% of Earth's land surface, but they support more than half the world's plant species and endemics and nearly 43% of bird, mammal, reptile, amphibian species and endemics. The endangered red-tailed cockatoo, often spotted in the area. This species of black cockatoo only produces one young every second year. I have found 6 feathers in 15 years as I run through the bush, 2 in the reserve near Sandhills Road. This one I found and brought to you today is the one I found on Thursday. It was just after this item was presented. Australia is one of the top 10 biodiversity countries in the world. I believe it is our job to preserve remnant natural bushland in our shire wherever possible. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Davey.
Yeah, thank you. So Councillor Lindeman has laid out the potential social and environmental impacts in some detail. Councillor Lindeman also raised a question last week regarding this area being identified as potentially forming part of the Noongar land estate to be held by the Noongar Budjar Trust. I note that on the noongar.org.au website, which goes into some detail on the Southwest Native Title Settlement, that a site visit was held on Montgomery Road in Donnybrook on the 10th of September 2021. So although this land seems to be yet to be transferred into the Noongar land estate, it seems that the intention is there for the government to have this form part of the Noongar land estate and be held by the Noongar Budjar Trust for conservation in perpetuity. I also note that as part of our council plan, objective 9.3.1, that the community's feedback to go into the council plan was that they wanted to see this area, that we advocate for development of the Sandhills industrial area adjacent to this area, not part of the conservation area, to be light industrial and for use for the community as it is part of our town site. So based on community feedback, the social and environmental concerns raised by Councillor Lindeman and the fact it's within our town site, I'm actually against this item. I'm actually for this item and against mining in this area.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Would anyone else like to speak against the motion? Would anyone like to speak for the motion? Councillor Patrick.
Thank you. Look, nowhere near as articulate as the previous two councillors, but I do believe, one, as it is within the town site reserve, it's not something we should be encouraging. And two, given the, I guess, flexibilities and loopholes that seem to happen with mining, as soon as you open the door to allow something, this is only an exploration licence request, and I acknowledge that, but it does seem that the second you open the door, you seem to lose all control and things do tend to escalate very, very quickly. And as a result, I do believe that, you know, very, very different to extraction applications, which are very small enterprises, overall mining applications, whether it be exploration surveys or actual extraction for mining purposes, we should be pushing against it within the region. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Patrick. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Can I just confirm, Director of Operations, whether we have in the conditions any mention that the land has been put forward in the Nala Kala Budja Indigenous Land Use Agreement?
Thank you, Madam President. I confirm it hasn't actually noted in this document. However, it certainly is a process that's being managed concurrently, and we have had consultation in that area. So as much as it hasn't been formalised, as per Councillor Davies' comments, it certainly is in process.
Okay, thank you. Councillors, would you... Sorry, Councillor Davey?
Is it too late to propose an amendment that it be included in the... Sorry?
I would like to propose an amendment, but Councillor Davey, this has been prepared on the run, so would you like to pull up the amendment that we drafted very quickly?
I just wanted to...
And, sorry, Councillor Davey?
I just wanted to clarify, the terminology we should be using is the Noongar Land Estate to be held by the Noongar Budja Trust rather than the land use agreement area.
Thank you, Councillor Davey. Have we got it up? So I'm proposing the amendment worded as follows. It should be noted that some of this land has been considered for inclusion in the Nala Kala Budja Indigenous Land Use Agreement area. I'm open to changing that wording, Councillor Davey, with your knowledge.
Is this allowed? Am I allowed to propose changes to... Okay, just checking.
We're wording the amendment, so...
So rather than GKB Iliwa, so rather than Nala Kala Budja Indigenous Land Use Agreement area, if you just reference Noongar Land Estate to be held by the Noongar Budja Trust. No. It would then read, it should be noted that some of this land has been considered for inclusion in the NONNGAR.
Capital N.
Capital NOO. Yeah, it just needs a second N after the O's and then you got it. Land estate, which also have capitals for later, to be held by the Noongar Budja Trust. Budja is spelled BOODJA. No, so Noongar, not Nala Kala Budja. Yep. Then capital BOODJA, Trust. Beautiful.
Thank you for your help. So I have moved that amendment. Would someone like to second that? Councillor Davey. I believe it's, in speaking to the amendment, I believe it's very important to highlight that this is where we have committed the land previously, and that this be considered in good faith of the commitment we've made. Councillor Davey, would you like to speak to the amended motion? I'm sure you'd be much more articulate.
Oh no, that was beautiful. I was just going to add that obviously this is something that's dealt with outside of the Shire, so we've been consulted in this process, but this is a different area. It's not something that we can control. So it's just nice to note that we did highlight that the area could be potentially included in the Noongar Land Estate, and that a site visit was obviously supported a few years ago. So
Thank you,
think it's
Councillor
great.
Davey. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the amended motion? We'll put that to vote. Those in favour? And that's carried, thank you. That now becomes our substantive motion, which was moved by Councillor Lindeman and seconded by Councillor Davey. Councillor Patrick has spoken to the motion, and so have I. Would anyone else like to speak to the substantive motion? Right, then we'll put that to vote. Councillors in favour of the motion? And councillors against? Councillor Goober is against. Thank you, councillors. We'll just take a moment for the minutes to catch up. So moving on to 9.2.2. Sorry, 9.2, reports from the Director of Finance and Corporate, and item 9.2.2, which is Statement of Financial Authority Report, as at the 31st of January 2025. Now, councillors, we weren't able to raise questions about this report at the agenda briefing, so before we put the item to debate, I'd rather allow questions to be taken. And would you like to come up, Steph, and introduce the report? And then just, would you mind taking some questions if we have them? Thank you.
Hi. So just a couple of things on the monthly financials. The rates recovery is going very well at the moment. It's at 81.4% at January, and debt collection is well underway by the officers, so that's going quite well at the moment. The Shire's surplus is at the moment 15.3% higher than year to date, and that's due mainly to some reserve transactions not being done yet, and which is for light construction of assets and also purchase of some large fleet. The capital grants and subsidies, there was an unbudgeted DFIS vehicle that the Shire received, so that's just caused a higher capital grants and subsidy contribution, but that's been offset by the purchase of the vehicle as well, so it's just an in and out. That would be amended at budget review. Salary at the moment is an overspend of 6.54%, but the employee costs, that includes all employee costs, that includes your training, protective clothing, your leave and things like that, and that's slowly coming back at the moment. We've had a couple of long-time employees resign, so there was quite a couple of large payouts for them. And at the moment, the Capital Works program is slightly lower at 6.2%, and that's just due to timing, and it's actually ramping up a lot now. There's a lot going on at the moment, so that should all come back. So yeah, that's
Thank you.
roughly anything.
Thank you. Thanks, Steph. Do councillors have any questions?
We haven't moved.
We're not
Yeah.
moving it yet. We're just doing a quick Q&A. So, any questions on this item?
Okay. Yes, you mentioned a percentage of payments that have come in for rates, but I didn't quite catch it.
Oh, sorry. So the rates at the moment, we've got 1.4% in.
We're good?
I'll just clarify, that was an 81% come in? Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Is it Stephanie or Steph? Stephanie. Thank you. Okay, yeah, I'll stick to acting manager, then I'll get it right, won't I? Right. Would councillors, we'll go to debating the item. So would councillors like to move the item? Councillor Patrick. Seconder, Councillor Lindeman. Councillor Patrick, would you like to speak to the motion? No. Councillor Lindeman. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? No. We'll put that motion to vote. All those in favour? And that's carried. Thank you, Acting Manager of Finance. Okay. Moving to the point of, we get to our confidential segment of the meeting. Oh, I beg your pardon. Yes, we added 9.3.1. So, councillors, we're moving to item 9.3.1, Walga Sustainable Energy Project. Now, CEO, would you like to introduce this, this item? And we'll once again take some questions prior to debating.
So thanks very much, President. There was a briefing at the agenda briefing, so I'll keep this briefing or introduction fairly high level, but this report seeks Council's formal resolution to enter into phase 2 of the Walga Sustainable Energy Project. So Shire of Donnybrook Balingup is currently one of 48 local governments that's participating in phase 1 of the Walga Sustainable Energy Project. That project commenced, or phase 1 commenced on the 1st of April 2022 and is due to expire on the 31st of March 2025. Obviously, following the success of the program and the reduction or the management of the increases to contestable power for each of the 48 participating local governments across WA, Walga ran a request for quotation for the new contract commencing, which is proposed to commence the 1st of April 2025. Now, obviously, the hurdle rate, or the two sites, or council-owned sites that fall within the remit of the contestable energy sites, the Council Administration Centre next door and the Donnybrook Recreation Centre as well. So it was they were the two sites that fell within the remit or the purview of the recent procurement activity. So the most advantageous offer from the requests from quotation that was run through Walga was an alternative offer, and it can be summarised as follow: a 3-year contract term from the 1st of April 2025 through to 31st of March 2028. The unique, and the reason what makes it an alternate offer, one of the reasons why it makes an alternate offer is that it allows for a new time of offer band that allows for peak, midday and off-peak rates, allowing for a spend optimisation by scheduling consumption into a business hour peak period that has a cheaper supply rate. So, councillors, that's generally in the middle of the day and allows us to obviously run our pool pumps at that time to get that heavily reduced kilowatt hour rate. Also unbundled pricing, and then there is the option, of which we're not recommending to step into this space at this stage, but we'll investigate it further and bring back a further report where it's looking at a value-added service that includes an option to apply natural power to street lighting. This offer that is provided by Synergy, there was a number of responses to the request for quotation, is on the proviso that there's 100% take-up from those councils that are participating. And you can see that on within the body of the report there, the modelling for Alshire shows that year 1, year 2, year 3, that there's the estimated spend of $124,310, which is actually an increase from the last 12 months of $86,165. But I guess as comparison to the open market, if indeed we just took the open market kilowatt rate, there's a saving over that 3-year period of $87,574, or about 19% saving. Now, councillors, as detailed in the report, in the event that there isn't 100% take-up of participants, there is a fallback position, and you can see that at the bottom of the report there. The backup provision would see a total savings compared to the rate being offered in the open market of $66,241, or a proportional saving of about 14%. Now, the other part of it, and I guess the title of the report and indeed the WALGA program, is Sustainable Energy Project. So there's 2 limbs to that. The first one is obviously reducing the price hike burden by getting the aggregate procurement activity. But the second part is that 100% of the power, or the default position is 100% of the power is offset by, I call them renewable energy certificates. But it is that those certificates are bought by Synergy. They don't actually produce clean power or green power, but they actually offset it through the purchase of those certificates. So happy to take any questions, councillors.
Councillor Lillard.
I do have a bit of a question. The term renewable energy means that energy should come from sources that continually get replenished.
Yes.
Just a little bit of a play on words, or it's not even a truth really, because they're not. They're buying
That's correct.
green
They're buying
certificates. They're buying trees or certificates. Yep. So I don't have a problem necessarily with the energy opportunity, but I have a problem with the sort of greenwashing of renewable energy supply arrangement and the sustainable energy project that WALGA's calling it. Well, that may be more true, but the renewable energy one is not really true. Make a question out of that.
Don't you think?
True.
Do you want to save it and repeat it again?
Well, I'm trying to think of a way to word this that I can give you a question out of it. Would this pass the pub test?
Through you, Shire President, I won't speculate on what's going on down at the pub. I guess at the end of the day, as I did outline in my opening remarks, Councillor, that there is the 2 limbs. There is significant cost savings, and therefore, protecting the ratepayer from, an increase in our operating costs and hitting the increase in the rates. And look, I think I'll leave it to others to make observations. It's not my area of expertise. I think there is obviously, as I mentioned, Synergy doesn't actually have any wind farms or any of those renewable or green energy alternatives. However, as a way to provide the renewable, or the renewable moniker, they're fully offsetting it through the purchase of renewable energy certificates.
Thank you, CEO. Councillor Goobler, do you have a question? I'll emphasise.
I just have to make a statement, sort of just in relation to Western Power. Was on the media the other night. They're saying that they're looking into green power and wherever they can achieve that outcome, because they know the power station is going to close down in 2 or 3 or 5 years' time. So,
thank you, Councillor Goobler. Is there a question to that?
I sort of replying to what Anita. So I was replying to what Anita was saying. That yeah, no.
CEO, would you have an answer?
No, I don't have an answer to that question. Okay. But, probably just another.
Any other questions? Councillors,
I didn't. No.
I encourage questions, councillors.
Can I? So there was a question, probably just, do you want to address it? Okay.
Councillor Davey. Question?
I would like to move the item.
All right. Would anyone else like to ask a question before we move the item? No? Okay. Councillor Davey is moving this item. Are there any others? Sorry, do we have a seconder? Councillor Glover. Councillor Davey, would you like to speak to the item?
Yes, so I recently attended the Wellgo Renewable Energy Forum, at which point they discussed in detail the fact that the transition to renewable energy in Western Australia is a financial one rather than an environmental one. Similarly, this item is a financial item rather than an environmental item, where if we opt into this contestable power scheme for our two highest power users, we're at better odds of sourcing financially sustainable power than if we go to the open market. At the same time, we're encouraging the uptake of renewables, so it's a positive step forward. I did raise the question last week what the implications were to the ratepayer. So understanding that this is a financial risk mitigation strategy by opting in for our contestable sites, I did want it to be really clear to everyone that the information that you provided, CEO O'Connor, around the last 12 months electricity costs for the two contestable sites being 86,000, projected 12-month cost under phase 2 is 124,000, the increase year on year being around 38,000 from last year to 1st of April onwards, and that relating to about 0.5% of a rates increase. So I asked the question to make it very clear to everyone that although we're trying to mitigate financial risk by opting into this large large commitment contract, large group of councils with contestable power suppliers, that it is not all a good news story and there are cost implications with it.
Thank you.
So I'm for this item.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Davey. Councillor Glover.
Yeah, I'm speaking for this item as well, the Sustainable Energy Project. I'm all for making savings for our ratepayers, and thank you for putting it into percentage to savings for ratepayers, because I think that's really important. Oh, it's an increase, which will potentially be a saving going down the track. Sorry, I misunderstood that. I thought going forward it was that part. So we're yet to find out what the savings will be in percentage, or will we have that?
Hang on. Let me just catch up. Is that a question that we're putting to you?
I just looked a bit of body language at the CEO, so making me believe that this was going to actually save ratepayers in the long run.
Thank you, Councillor Glover. Can you respond?
Well, yes, as Councillor Davies outlined, it's actually mitigating the increase and the risk in the event that you didn't take up this opportunity. I mentioned over the 3 years the savings would be $87,574. There would be an additional increase of 0.37% on the rate, so mitigating an additional on current year's rate expenditure of 0.37%, if that makes sense. So you're limiting the rate increase. Yep.
Thank you, CEO. Now, Councillor Glover, have you finished speaking to your... Okay. Would anyone else like to speak against the motion? Or for? We'll put that to vote. Councillors in favour of the motion? That's carried. Item 10, elected member motions of which previous notice has been given. There are none. Item 11, new business of an urgent nature introduced by the decisions of the meeting. There is none. And we move now to the point where we'll close the meeting to the public in order to consider item 12.1.1, request for credit request for quote 336 supply of loader. And for those who are live streaming, we will come back from this item purely to read the outcome from that item and then to close the meeting. Would councillors like to move that we close the meeting? Councillor Patrick, seconded by Councillor Lindemann. All in favour? Carried. We're live? Okay. Item 12.1.1 The report was confidential in accordance with section 5.2.32C of the Local Government Act 1995, which permitted the meeting to be closed to the public. For Clause C, a contract entered into or which may be entered into by the local government and which relates to a matter to be discussed at the meeting. The motion is that for everyone live streamed as well? Okay. The motion is there to be seen and that has been approved by council. We then move to closure of the meeting. I'll advise that the next agenda briefing session will be held on the 19th of March 2025 at 5 p.m. in the Shire of Donnybrook Baling Up Council Chamber, and I declare the meeting closed at 6:55 p.m. Thank you, councillors.